You ever feel like you're climbing a mountain and halfway through you realize your worst enemy isn't the terrain, it's the voice in your head telling you to quit? That's Celeste. And here's the thing. It released 8 years ago, which means some of you watching probably haven't even looked at this game. But in 2026, with everything we're dealing with, Celeste is hitting different. It's not just one of the greatest indie games ever made, it's one of the most important games ever made, period. And I'm not being dramatic. Stick around because I'm breaking down why a game about climbing a mountain is genuinely life-changing, what makes it mechanically perfect, and why after 8 years, we're still talking about it like it just dropped yesterday. Alright, let's start here. Celeste isn't a complicated story on paper. You're Madeline. She's a young woman with anxiety and depression. She decides to climb Celeste Mountain. That's it. That's the setup. But what Maddie Thorson and the team at Maddie Makes Games did with that premise is extraordinary. They didn't just tell a story about climbing a mountain, they made the mountain be the story. See, most games, when they tackle mental health, they either get preachy or they get clinical. Celeste doesn't do either. Instead, the game introduces Battleline, this manifestation of Madeline's self-doubt. She's literally a shadow self that tries to stop you from reaching the summit. And here's where it gets genius. Battleline isn't a final boss you defeat and move on from. She becomes part of you. The game actually teaches you that your doubts, your fears, your anxiety, they're not obstacles to crush. They're part of you that you need to understand and accept. By the end of Celeste, Madeline doesn't conquer her anxiety. She learns to live with it. She breathes. She accepts that getting knocked down 100 times and getting back up 101 times isn't weakness, it's strength. That message hits in 2026 in a way it probably even hit in 2018. We're all climbing our own mountains right now. We're all dealing with versions of Battleline. And this game says it's okay. You're going to be okay. Just keep climbing. And the writing, man, the writing is sincere without being cheesy. There's no melodrama. Madeline has conversations with other characters on the mountain. Theo, a guy trying to reach the summit for his own reasons. Oshiro, the owner of this abandoned resort. And as you unlock the post-game content, you meet Granny, who's hilarious and heartwarming. These conversations ground the game. They make it feel like people genuinely exist in this world, struggling with their own stuff. By the time you finish the main story, you're not just satisfied with the victory, you're emotionally spent in the best way. Now, here's the hard part to explain without making it sound intimidating. Celeste is hard, like genuinely difficult. This is a precision platformer in the vein of Super Mario Bros. 3 and games like Super Meat Boy. You control Madeline, and the core mechanics are simple. Run, jump, climb walls, wall jump, and dash in one of 8 directions mid-air. That's literally it. No power-ups, no upgrades, no arbitrary difficulty spikes based on RNG. Just pure distilled platforming. But here's what separates Celeste from just being a hard-for-hard's-sake platformer. The game teaches you before it tests you. Each chapter slowly introduces new mechanics. You learn how dashing works. Then you learn how to dash off moving platforms. Then you learn how to combine wall jumps with dashes. Then the game says, okay, now do all of that at once while avoiding spikes and lava and disappearing blocks. And by the time you're doing it, it feels natural. It feels right. The level design is teaching you without you realizing you're being taught. Checkpoints are incredibly generous too. You're not punished for failing. You spawn back at the last checkpoint instantly, usually just 1 or 2 rooms back. So the game isn't about memorizing giant level sequences. It's about solving one small puzzle at a time. Fail, learn, adopt, succeed, move on. That iteration loop is so tight and so satisfying that even when you're failing, and you will fail hundreds of times, it doesn't feel frustrating. It feels like progress. And here's the beautiful part. If the game is too hard for you, there's assist mode. This isn't a cosmetic difficulty option buried in settings that you feel ashamed to turn on. The game actually encourages you to use it. You can slow the game speed down, you can give yourself infinite dashes, you can make Madeline invincible. And the game says, turn on whatever you want. This is your climb. That's radical design philosophy. Most hard games have an attitude. Celeste has empathy. By the end of the main story, 8 chapters, you're looking at maybe 4 to 6 hours, depending on your skill level and how much you struggle. But then there's the free DLC called Farewell, which released in 2019. Farewell is a 9th chapter that's genuinely insane. It's designed for players who've mastered the base game. It's longer than the main campaign and roughly 10 times harder. Some people call it the hardest platformer content ever made. And the fact that it's free, the developers were just like, sure, for our fans who want an extreme challenge, here's something that'll break you mentally for a few weeks. The speedrunning community ate this game up. There are hundreds of custom maps made by the community using the Everest mod loader. People are still discovering new tricks and optimizations 8 years later. The community aspect keeps this game alive in a way that most games could only dream of.
Celeste looks like a PS1-era platformer. Pixel art, simple color palettes, lo-fi aesthetic. In 2018, that was a stylistic choice. In 2026, it's timeless. The art director, Pedro St. Eleven Medeiros, nailed something fundamental about visual design: clarity and readability. You always know where you can and can't jump. You always know where the hazards are. The pixel art isn't trying to be impressive, it's trying to communicate, and it does that perfectly. Each chapter has a distinct visual identity. The prologue is warm and inviting. Celestial Resort is lush and tropical. Old Site is abandoned and melancholic. The mirror, without spoiling anything, is deeply unsettling in the best way. The visual progression mirrors Madeline's emotional journey. You're not just moving through levels, you're moving through states of mind. The screen transitions are actually brilliant. Each level is a single screen, and when you move to the next screen, there's this smooth transition that makes the mountain feel like this cohesive, living space, rather than disconnected boxes. It's a small thing, but it's the kind of attention to detail that separates good games from great games. Color design is intentional too. Dangerous spikes are usually reddish. Wall climbable surfaces have a specific hue. The game uses visual language to tell you what's possible and what's dangerous. You learn to read the levels. And when you finally pull off a sequence that looked impossible 5 minutes ago, that's because the game designed you to understand it visually first, then mechanically.
Here's the thing about Celeste in 2026. It's been 8 years since launch, and it's still getting updates. The FNA version was recently updated to support modern graphics drivers. Players are still running speedrun marathons. The modding community is as active as it's ever been. In an industry where games are constantly being abandoned and servers are getting shut down, Celeste is this evergreen title that just keeps existing perfectly. The base game can take anywhere from 4 to 6 hours to finish, but there's so much hidden content. Golden strawberries, which are collectible items that unlock hard variants of levels. Cassettes, which unlock B-sides, harder versions of levels with different mechanics and layouts. Then there's the main game collectibles that teach you the story of who the characters are. If you're trying to do everything, you're looking at 40 plus hours easily. And speedrunning this game is genuinely interesting because there are no randomized elements. Every player knows the exact same layout. The competitive scene is about execution, precision, and discovering new techniques. There are various categories: any percent, where you finish the game as fast as possible; all berries, where you collect all strawberries; full clear, where you get everything. The highest level runners are completing the main game in under 25 minutes. The Farewell Chapters world record is around 10 minutes, and these people are making frame-perfect movements for the entire run. The community aspect is honestly what keeps Celeste alive. Speedrun.com has an entire hub for Celeste mods. Game Banana has hundreds of user-created maps. The modding tools like Everest and Acorn are maintained by fans and continue to make it easier for people to create their own content. This is what post-launch support looks like when developers genuinely care about letting their community thrive.
If I'm being completely honest, the only critique I have is that Farewell might be too hard for most people, which kind of defeats the purpose of having content everyone can theoretically access. But the developers were pretty clear that Farewell is for the extreme challenge seekers. So that's a design choice, not a flaw. Beyond that, there's nothing. The story is tight, the mechanics are flawless, the art is beautiful, the music is extraordinary, and the community around it is still thriving 8 years later. This is what a perfect game looks like. Celeste released in 2018. In 2026, it's still one of the 5 best platformers ever made, full stop. It's still universally praised by players and critics. It's still getting love from the community. It's still teaching new developers about level design, difficulty balancing, and emotional storytelling. And most importantly, it's still helping people understand that getting knocked down doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're trying, and that's what matters. If you haven't played Celeste yet, what are you doing? It's 8 years old and it's been refined across multiple updates. It's on Switch, PlayStation, Xbox, PC, Mac. It's affordable. It'll challenge you, it'll break you emotionally, but in the end, you'll reach the summit. And when you do, you'll understand why this game matters. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more game reviews and deep dives. Let me know in the comments, have you played Celeste? What did it mean to you? See you in the next one.